I personally tested 21 of the top back pain relief exercises found on the internet. And as an ex-chronic back pain sufferer myself, I'm gonna show you which ones may help and which ones will probably keep you in pain. Odds are you're here because your back hurts and you're trying to figure out how to beat this on your own. And you're probably still wondering, is my back even fixable? Can I fix my back without injections or surgery or taking more medication? It's a great question. I've got a simple quiz that you can take that will actually tell you if your back is actually fixable by you. Not injections or surgery, but can you actually fix your chronic low back pain? I'm gonna ask you some questions, dig a little bit deeper into where you're at, and based on your results, I'm gonna give you the best strategy for you to take for your unique back situation. It's super easy. Take the quiz, get your results, and let me send you what you should be actually focusing on to get lasting relief. Go to the link in the description box below this video here, or go to fitnessforbackpain.com/quiz. Now let's jump in. All right, so the first exercise is the cat-cow. Love the cat-cow. It's a great, I would say, phase 1 exercise where you're trying to gain confidence in movement in the low back. You're not trying to be aggressive or build strength. You're just trying to get these muscles in the low back to relax. Oftentimes when you're dealing with chronic low back pain for years and years and years, there's a lot of guarding, there's a lot of protecting, a lot of stiff, achy muscles. And the cat-cow, if done appropriately, could actually bring a lot of relief to your low back. So for this one here, I say do it. Just make sure it fits your unique pain situation and you're not doing it too much. Second exercise, according to Google, is the child's pose. In my opinion, this is the absolute worst exercise or stretch, if that's the category that we're gonna put this one in, for someone living with chronic low back pain. When you are stretching the sensation of tight muscles, you're just stretching a sensation. You're not stretching an actual shortened muscle. So the problem when it comes to yoga classes or things like child's pose is you're putting a lot of stretch on the low back, and the low back is already fearful, it's already guarded, your body, your pain system is already on this fight or flight kind of kick because you've been in pain for so long. It's been tight, it's been irritated, it's not wanting you to bend or twist. So you're getting on the floor and forcing yourself into a position, or the low back in a position, that it just doesn't feel comfortable doing. Most people feel good while they do this, but they always pay for it later. So if you have to keep doing this to get relief, it's not gonna work. So this third exercise was actually pretty crazy. It was a bridge. That's what it's labeled as according to Google. I attempted the bridge and I have never been personally suggested or given the bridge exercise in this case, in this context, to get rid of back pain. So this is me trying to do it and failing. 100%, we could probably both agree that this is not going to fix your chronic low back pain. But if it did fix your chronic low back pain, make sure you put in the comment section that it actually did work. I'd love to have a conversation with you and find out how in the world this movement fixed your chronic back pain. So we'll get past this one and go to the next. Number 4 exercise, according to Google, is the seated spinal twist. I call this the baseball stretch. I did this all the time back in the day. First thing in the morning, multiple times throughout the day, and then at the end of the day. It felt good. I would twist over, I'd get a good glute stretch, I'd get some hamstring stretch, I'd get a low back pulling. I would often be getting some self-adjustments in the low back, which would always bring me temporary relief. But when you get addicted to temporary relief, you keep doing these things. And when you keep doing something like this seated spinal twist, or the baseball stretch in the situation, all it's gonna do is keep creating a painful, tense, tight, overprotected response in the low back. If you're dealing with chronic low back pain, this exercise is not going to be the thing that takes you across the finish line where you can say you live chronic back pain free today. Now this next exercise, the trunk rotation, there's some good and bad to this, right? If you're using it as a stretch where you're twisting in your chair, ooh, got that good pop there. I'm twisting and bam, get that second pop there. That is not what we're trying to do. What this trunk rotation, which I agree with, is creating safety with movement when we're doing some rotation. Oftentimes, when you have been in pain for a long period of time, your back is tight, it's tense, it's guarded, it's protective. So when you're doing simple movements, like trunk rotations, and we'll be showing some more that you can use today to get some relief here in a little bit. But when you're doing exercises like this and you're focusing on relaxing, breathing, letting go of protection, guarding, this can actually be a game changer if done appropriately. Number 6, according to Google, is the body flexion, which is basically just bending over. I'm gonna tell you this really quick. If bending over hurts your low back now, odds are this is gonna hurt. I'm willing to bet more bending is going to hurt. The idea of saying, hey, if your back hurts, just bend over, just keep bending over, and that should bring relief. Obviously, if you just think just logically, that doesn't make any sense. If you're already bending over and it's causing pain, this isn't going to work. Now, there are some concepts around overcoming the fear of bending, overcoming the fear of, just not having a perfect, rigid, neutral posture, but simply bending over more to fix chronic back pain with bending isn't gonna be it. Oh, this next exercise, the knee hug, okay? This is similar to another exercise that I'm gonna break down here, but the knee hug is essentially you just bringing your knees into your chest and you kind of grabbing onto your legs and pulling them into your chest. You're getting a very deep low back stretch. Again, this brings us back to the whole concept around an overstretched low back. If your back is tight, if it's guarded, if it's tense, if it's almost on the verge of spasms and catching and sciatica, putting your low back in more of a deeper flexed position or stretching the low back in this situation is not going to be the thing that helps your low back. It will feel good when you wake up and your back is tight and you have those sensations and you're trying to get out of bed. It's going to feel good to do it. But if your symptoms come back and you have to do it every single day just to feel better, it's not fixing your problem. Remember, be core issue focused, not just symptom treatment focused. Big difference there. Long-term strategies focus on the core issue, and this does not do it. Now, this next one is one of my favorites, the pelvic tilt. What most people see as a very simple, weird, awkward movement at the pelvis is actually a really good exercise that can be done in a lot of different positions. I'm doing it here on my back, where we're simply just rocking the pelvis in and out of anterior and posterior pelvic tilts. The low back is tight, it's achy, it's stiff, it's spasms, it catches, you got some sciatica going on, whatever you may be dealing with, movement in this area, gentle movement, unguarded, unprotected movement is critical. And the pelvic tilt, if done appropriately, in the right dose, the right frequency, the reps and sets for your unique pain profile can be a game changer in releasing some of this tension, some of this pressure, and moving yourself towards stronger, more harder, scary lifts without any kind of pain whatsoever. This next exercise, the bird dog exercise. I have a lot of love-hate with this exercise because I really cut my teeth on what would be considered the McGill method when it comes to healing chronic back pain. It's what I started with my own body. Failed miserably, it did not work for me. It honestly led to more issues that I dealt with for years after going to the McGill method. And the bird dog was one of those exercises that just did not work for me personally. There are videos all over the internet saying that the big three are great for chronic back pain. I just completely disagree. I know that the McGill method and Stuart McGill and the people who are involved with that organization are great people. They mean well. They want you to get out of pain. I'm just speaking about the bird dog exercise. If your back hurts, if it's tight, if it's achy, if it's catching, if it's spasming, I don't think the bird dog is gonna be the thing that helps. I think there's so many other exercises you could do that focus on the low back without doing this specific one for you. Next exercise is another common stretch, the piriformis stretch. Pseudo sciatica, fake sciatica. There's some things you can do to test whether or not you have true sciatica or not, but tight glutes, hips, is a very common thing when you're dealing with chronic years of low back pain. It starts to kind of translate into other areas of the body. It goes into your hamstrings, your glutes, your quads, your hip flexors. All of the surrounding areas of a low back issue get involved because the body operates as a system. The low back is not an isolated part of your body that operates and does its own thing. It's a team effort. And when you're doing things like the piriformis stretch, you're stretching glutes, you're stretching the hips, it feels good, but this is not going to solve your chronic back pain. You're gonna be chasing the sensation of tightness, but when it comes to low back pain, chronic low back pain relief, getting out of pain for good, the piriformis stretch will give you some relief, but it's not gonna fix your problem. This next exercise, the glute bridge, I personally am okay with this exercise. It's a strength training exercise where you're building the ability in your hips to really activate your glutes to turn on. And for me personally, it's all about how you coach this exercise. So the glute bridge can become a low back exercise. And for a lot of chronic back pain, stiff, tight, achy low backs, the low back is the dominant mover in this specific exercise. So what you want to do with the glute bridge is focus on the hips being the exercise or being the muscles that lift the low back or lift the body up off the ground. Another key thing here is don't extend in the low back. Don't think the higher you go, the better it is. Because once you go past a certain point, your low back does turn on. And if you already have a tight, tense low back, doing more of contraction and lifting with your low back is going to further seed that issue. The goal with chronic low back pain and stiffness and tightness is to draw back, is to make things less aggressive, less turned on, less tight, and doing these things correctly could be a big help. Now, the back extension is the next exercise, and there's lots of different variations of the back extension. The one that I'm showing you here is the exercise that I found on the internet. It's really, the idea is just building tolerance or endurance in the low back in a very safe, gentle way, right? This, what you're seeing, compared to like deadlifting, could be obviously done by someone who is in pain without causing more issues or injury just by simply doing the simple version of this. There's other types of back extensions that are involved, like more of like the cobra pose, where we're trying to encourage disc to return back into more of a normal place in the spine, which could help with sciatica. So depending on what back extension you're doing, this could be an okay exercise if we're trying to build tolerance in the low back, but it's all about the application and how you apply it. So just be careful that you're doing it the correct way for what you are trying to accomplish. All right, so we're on number 13, crunches. There's so many other core exercises you can do. I understand that some people believe that a stronger core leads to less back pain, but there's too much science and research out there that says that it's not necessarily the case. You can have a strong core, you can train your core until the cows come home, and your back is still gonna hurt. There's lots of people who I work with who are avid core trainers. They're in the gym 5-6 days a week, and their core is probably stronger than mine, and they are in debilitating chronic low back pain. So crunches, I would not suggest someone with a herniated disc, bulging disc, sciatica to be doing something like a crunch. There's other exercises that train the core for endurance or core coordination that will be better than doing crunches. There's powerlift presses, there's even side planks. I wouldn't suggest doing planks because that again goes back to the low back being tight. It's a very low back driven exercise. But the crunch by itself, I don't think is something that you should be doing with a chronic low back pain issue. Now this next stretch is interesting. I've actually never seen this suggested, or at least it's never been suggested to me. They call it the leg stretch, and I'm demonstrating here. It's a very chill hamstring kind of kicking type of stretch where it kind of favors a little bit of nerve flossing. If you ever done or seen nerve flossing before, this leg stretch is very similar to that. We're just trying to get a stretch on the hamstring, going back and forth between legs. Again, this is going to feel good. Like as I was doing this exercise, I went from like what felt like really tight, restricted hamstrings. A few reps in, I was feeling more loose and more kind of free in the hamstring area. But this doesn't fix chronic back pain. It might change the stimulus in the area. If you do have chronic tension in your hamstrings, doing this gently will kind of break some of that tension up. But if the pain or tension comes back and you have to keep doing the leg stretch to get relief and you're just back and forth, this is just treating the symptom. It's not gonna treat the actual root cause, which is gonna solve the problem for good. 7 more, bear with me, okay? This next one, knee to chest stretch. Very common. I would say 98% of the clients that I work with tell me that they do this first thing in the morning. At the end of the day, midday, their back is just so tight from sitting or standing or whatever they're doing. They have to get on the ground, grab their knees and pull their knees into their chest and really get a good knee stretch or a low back stretch by pulling on their knees. Again, this is going to feel good temporarily. If you have a very sensitive low back, it's guarded, it's tight, it's tense, this might feel good. Some of you might feel a little bit of searing or hot or kind of a spicy sensation in the low back. And essentially what you're doing is your back is like, I don't like this. And you're trying to pull it into a deeper stretch. And your central nervous system is just responding with, hey, again, this is going to create more fear, more guarding, more protection in my low back. We don't like you doing this. So you might be feeling like you're making progress by pulling your knees into your chest, stretching that tight low back out. But this is gonna fall into that category where you just should not do it if your back is always hot. Oh, the classic seated hamstring stretch. This again falls into the hamstring stretching or stretching category. Sure, this might feel good in the hamstrings. If you have sciatica, this is a very common thing for people to do when you have sciatica. You've got that pain going down your legs or the back of your legs, and it's a sensation of tightness. It's that nerve response. But what you're doing is just stretching that nerve off. But what you're doing is just stretching that nerve. You're pissing it off more. You're making it more upset. So by doing that, it's going to create more of a response when you get out of that position. So if you're trying to fix sciatica, you're trying to fix an over tight low back, which is then turning into glutes, which is then turning to your hamstrings, you're just chasing symptoms. Going to your hamstrings to stretch, or your glutes to stretch, or your low back to stretch, that's just treating the symptom of what you're dealing with. The core issue, you got to dig deeper. And this is going to be something that the PT gives you, or the chiro gives you, or maybe the internet gives you. But it's not going to be the thing that actually solves the core issue, which is more of a central nervous system driven problem that you have to fix first. We're at the final four. Next one is the hip stretch. I actually like this exercise. The way I do it, where you kind of rock in and out of this hip flexor stretching. Instead of a static hold, you're going in and out. I like to do this because it kind of opens up and gives me some mobility. I do this before like a leg exercise or a leg workout in general. This is not going to solve chronic back pain. So if you're doing this exercise to fix your tight hip flexors, or you fix your tight low back because you've got an issue and you've had pain for years and years, this hip flexor stretch is not going to solve the chronic low back pain. But if you have a warm-up routine that you like to do before you go into a leg day, I actually personally like this hip stretch to kind of open both sides of the hip up. But from a chronic back pain perspective, this is not going to fix it. Next exercise is the side bend. I'm not sure why this exercise came into this list, but according to Google, this fixes chronic low back pain. No, it does not fix chronic low back pain. Bending side to side is not going to do anything for your chronic low back pain. Adding weight to it, it's not going to do anything. Becoming stronger at this is not going to do anything. If maybe you have some pain, very specific pain, bending side to side, and you're like, man, I feel super stiff because I'm so scared and afraid, there are some gentle movements, more of like a somatic approach to movement that may involve going side to side and opening up the ability to feel confident with bending side to side. But simply just grabbing a dumbbell, kettlebell, and just cranking out some side crunches is not going to be the thing that fixes your chronic low back pain. Now, this back press exercise is actually a sneaky exercise. I personally like this movement. It kind of falls in line with the exercise such as the cat-cow and then also the pelvic tilts. I would probably put this in the same category. This is actually a really good exercise. You can do this standing, you can do this in the office, you can do it even when you're in the car and you're kind of stuck in traffic, and you can get some movement into your low back. If it's feeling stiff, it's kind of building. This is something to kind of keep things calm and keep movement favored in the low back. You can do this on your back at the end of the day, where you're kind of doing some deep breathing, some central nervous system calming strategies to desensitize your pain. But regardless of that, whether you're standing, sitting, lying down, this active back pressing into the low back or into the wall or floor, coming out of it and working on some breathing, will and can do some really good long-term work with calming down the central nervous system and building trust back in your low back. So this is a thumbs up for me. Last two, downward dog pose, 100% no, it's not gonna help you. I had a client I had talked with today where he's been doing the downward dog for like years, and it triggers his sciatica, yet he continues to do it. Makes no sense to me, but this is what people do. They get stuck on what the internet says and they do it, and it kind of works, but then it kind of doesn't, so they keep doing it thinking it's eventually gonna work. The downward dog pose is one of the worst exercises for low back pain in my personal opinion, especially if you have some kind of disc issue where you have sciatica, you're having radiating pain down your legs. Do not do the downward dog pose. It really isn't a pose that I would suggest that you do, but specifically this one, don't do it. Final exercise, the prone leg lift. I'm actually in favor of this exercise. I do like hip and glute strengthening work, especially if we're coaching it correctly. The key with this is when you're doing certain exercises that are trying to isolate muscle groups, we're trying to teach the body and brain to activate these muscles while the low back can be relaxed. If your back is always hot, spicy, it's tight, it's tense, it's spasmy, it's always been hurting for years and years and years, odds are it's just always on. It's always activated. There's always a slight tone to the low back. So when you go do bridges or lunges or squats or whatever exercise you're doing, your back is always hot, it's always contracted. So when we are doing exercise, the prone leg lift, we want to focus on calming the low back down, getting it to relax, And then let's activate the hips, activate the glutes, and let the low back just chill. That's the secret to stuff like this. So for these types of exercises, it is a thumbs up for me, but it's all about how we apply it to the unique person. All right, so that is my take on what the internet says is the best exercise for chronic low back pain. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this in the comment section.